They don't pay us enough to suffer for the trust. I'm gonna take what's mine before the cause gets just. Take what's mine before I run out of time, before the face on the monument pays me a compliment.
So the first question that is going to come up typically is why save these buildings? And there's really a number of reasons that it makes sense to save these buildings, but basically it's the responsible thing to do. And when we think about responsibility, we think of it in terms of sustainability as well. And when we think of sustainability, we think of the social, economic, and environmental reasons that it makes sense to save a building like this. So let's start with the economic reasons for doing this. We've already identified a need or a use, a potential adaptive reuse for the building. We've talked with a number of local organizations and clubs in the community and found that there is a large interest in using a facility like this as a community center. Within the walls of the community center, we could facilitate music and art programs, educational programs of various different types, as well as different clubs and organizations. So from an economic standpoint, we've identified a use for the building, which is really step number one. Number two, it's going to create business in Libertyville. First of all, we're talking about a construction project that we'd take an existing building and recycle it into something that's reusable. From that standpoint, it's going to create local jobs. And when you look at the numbers, restoration or remodeling work creates about 15 to 20% more jobs, local jobs, than new construction would, because we're really heavier on the labor side in a remodeling or restoration project than we would be on material side. So from that standpoint, remodeling and reuse of existing buildings makes more economic sense than building new, especially if you have a building such as this, which is worthy of reuse. We've had experts in over the years who have examined the building and determined that it's structurally sound. So from that standpoint, it makes sense if there is a reason or a way that the building could be reused to figure out how to reuse it and go ahead and do that. And then also local businesses are going to benefit from activities that go on here. There will be spillover business from the use of as a community center. There'll be folks going out to eat, stopping on their way to and from these activities and visiting local businesses within especially the immediate area, which is downtown Libertyville. So from that standpoint, we can create more business, we can create jobs. It makes sense to do this economically for a number of other reasons as well. But those really are the primary ones. Socially, there's a lot of reasons that it makes sense to rehab and restore a building like this as well. Number one, it's been part of our community for a long time. There's a lot of memories that reside here within the walls of this building. And without memories, what do we really have? We have dreams to go along with those memories, and certainly there's a dream and a vision for how this building could end up being used again within our community. So this means a lot to a lot of people within Libertyville here. And from a social standpoint, there's been a lot of things that have gone on here in the past that will translate as well to the future. There's activities that go on here that support social well-being in our community. History, there's been a lot of studies done in Libertyville asking why people choose to live here. And one of the main reasons that people choose to live in Libertyville is because of the character of the community. What is character? Character is defined by a lot of things, but in a lot of urban and suburban settings, it's defined by the physical surroundings. And this building has really been a part of the physical environment here for almost 100 years. So from that standpoint, it means a lot to a lot of people. And if there's a way to translate that into the next generation and carry those memories forward, it will have a deep meaning to a lot of people. It also is a responsible thing to do. From a social standpoint, we're demonstrating that having nice things and taking care of them means they're going to last a long time. So being able to take something instead of throwing it out and starting over again and then filling up a landfill with the debris, to be able to take that and recycle it into something that's usable is a very responsible thing to do. And that proves not only to past generations, but future generations, what it means to be socially responsible. And that's something, a lesson that I think can be taught and learned and passed down from generation to generation. And certainly this is a visible image of that being done. From an environmental standpoint, it makes sense to look at recycling and reusing a building like this. It really is the ultimate form of recycling. We've studied the amount of embodied energy that's contained in the materials and resources that really create the walls and the structure of this building. And just in those materials alone, and the amount of energy it took to create the materials and the amount of energy that's sitting here embodied in those materials, we're looking at the equivalent of about $3 million worth of energy, worth of petroleum, or however you want to convert it. That's $3 million worth of a natural resource that's sitting on this site today. If we were to throw that out, it's essentially throwing away $3 million worth of raw materials. Environmentally also, we've got a lot of opportunities here to create a model to demonstrate how we can take an existing building and make it a 21st century structure. We can do that in a lot of ways. We've already gone through some preliminary studies and determined that this is a great candidate for a LEED project, a LEED certification project. And what that means is we're going to take advantage of the fact that it's an existing structure, recycle that structure, bring it up to current and beyond energy efficiency standards. And believe it or not, these older buildings, many of them were built to be very energy efficient because at the time they were built, there wasn't air conditioning, so they had to keep themselves naturally cooled. So there's operable windows here. We're looking into the original auditorium gymnasium from the 1916 Brainerd building. And with a little bit of imagination, you can sort of envision the things that could go on in here. We've got a beautiful stage set up at the front of the space that could house all kinds of different performance activities, music, dance, art, theater. You could certainly see this space filled with people looking at the show, and also there's a lot of open space here, so for things like functions, corporate, private, banquet type uses. And the beautiful thing about this is it is sort of the heart of this building. The classrooms surround this space so that anything that was going on in the space could feed off into auxiliary or ancillary spaces that could be used to support the activities within. So again, the architecture and the finishes in here are original to the 1918, 1916 construction. And it needs restoration. We're not talking about moving walls around. We're not talking about demolishing anything major. We're talking about bringing it back to life, reusing as much of the original construction and finishes as we possibly can, and bringing them back into a functional condition that will go on for many years to come, just like they have for about the past 100 years. As we start to peel back the layers, you'll notice the ceiling, which is an acoustical drop ceiling that was probably added within the last 20 years or so. Underneath there's some great old skylights. And once that is exposed, it'll bring natural light into the space. And it's really an architectural feature that was done at a time when artificial lighting wasn't the best solution. So the natural light really provided a lot of opportunities to get color enhanced light in here that would also be a very pleasant environment for the activities that would go on within the space. The flooring that I'm standing on now is an old terrazzo floor made from marble and stone particles and an epoxy matrix or a concrete matrix. This again is a floor that was meant to last hundreds of years, and it's really still in pretty good shape. You look at the arches that surround the space. It allowed for viewing areas, looking into what could have been a gymnasium space for a night. So you could almost see people lining up between the arches, watching the local basketball team play, watching the theater or music performances going on in there. And really the stage itself has some interesting original detail around it as well. So all those items are still here. They need to be brought back to life again. They can be brought back to life again. And we're really not talking about a tremendous amount of cost to be able to do that. We're just talking about some time, some energy, and the will of the community.
Take what's mine before I run out of time, before the face on the monument, before the face